Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into an exciting show because this is going to be a special segment. Yep, that's the special segment is going to be all about the very divisive and hot topic issue of, well, Russia, Ukraine, all that good stuff. Over the past couple of days and obviously over the past week, we have tried to, not stay out of it. It's impossible if you're covering the headlines to not mention the conflict. And it's, it's gotten to a point that it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And a lot of the news that we are getting today are the responses from different companies, in tech in particular, to what's happening in Ukraine. So I wanted to dedicate a show entirely to, just have a little discussion, and feel free to reach out on social media, at Computer America on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so on and so forth. You can find us there pretty easily. Even on TikTok, although we haven't really advertised that. But yeah, with that being said, you can reach out to us and, let us know what you think. But this segment is going to be dedicated to this whole conversation. And then, not that we'll leave it in the past, because we're going to keep a very close eye on it. But it does, kind of warrant that, we put it all out here. So the way that I'm thinking this segment is going to go is we're going to talk about the different tech companies, mainly the large tech companies, not so much, just every single person's opinion in the world, but your Facebook, your Microsoft, your Google, your Twitter, your Netflix, for instance. Yeah, even they made it in there. We're going to talk about, kind of what they're doing in terms of punishing Russia and what role they should be playing. And then on top of that, we will move into, kind of how they might not have a choice due to current U.S.-Russian sanctions and things like that. What we have an article here, for instance, about how Ukraine is asking to unplug Russia from the internet. So, just completely disconnecting an entire country from the internet, which, to my knowledge, has never been done before. So we're gonna have this fun little talk all about this. And then we're going to wrap it up with what people are doing to help those in Ukraine. Because regardless of what's happening and what side you're on and all that good stuff, there are people suffering in Ukraine. And so we do want to end on a high note and highlight that, people are reaching out, they are trying to help, and, they're trying to, in their own little way, because no one company can completely solve this war, but some are trying, and in their own little ways. Definitely want to highlight that at the end. But everyone, before we get started, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, past shows, future shows, everything you need to know, including the podcast, video archives, the live video stream, social media links, all that and more. You can find it right there at computeramerica.com. While you're there, be sure to give us a like, give us a follow, give us a review, all that good stuff. Let's go ahead, and I think we're going to get started with this special segment. And I don't think I have a special segment for Computer America and all this kind of good stuff. So I think we're going to go ahead and just do this. Let's get started. Okay, so everyone, on today's show, as I said before, Russia invaded Ukraine to annex two parts of its country, And I think another thing that happened today was Belarus actually sent in their armed forces to invade Ukraine as well. Essentially, Putin wants to, rebuild the USSR. He feels like it's his duty to reunite the Russian people all under the Russian Federation. Long story short, people are losing their homes. They're getting bombed. There's active military, all over the country. And yeah, the little bit of suffering, and I say a little bit lightly, the little bit of suffering we've seen kind of doesn't bode well for Ukraine, because there's a lot more to come. There's only been a small, 10% of Russia's military forces that they have lined up have made it into the country, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So, due to this conflict, and obviously here in the West, we're going to have a much different opinion than, propaganda spread by Russia, spread by China, all that kind of thing. And yes, there is propaganda going on all the time. There has, I think the West is very much on the side of, the status quo, Let's not bomb people. Let's not bomb people's houses. If they wanted to join Russia, then, Ukraine would have had a referendum to join Russia. Instead, in the middle of a war, they're having a referendum to, join the EU and things like that. So, everyone, I think you don't have to get your news from me about the current situation in Russia. You just know I wanted to give a quick outline. Now, what I did want to focus on was tech companies, because just like the presidential election, just like the storming the Capitol on January 6th, just like any other major event that has happened in the past couple of years, it's this idea that social media companies now have a responsibility, because the vast majority of people, they don't want to wait till 6 p.m. to get their news. If they're up at 2 a.m., they want to go to social media and see the latest stories as they happen. That's really what it comes down to. So social media companies, by and large, are some of the most active places for news. And you're hoping that's good, unbiased journalism, but let's face it, there's a lot of commentary and opinions being thrown around as if they were fact. Now, when you get situations like that, you have social media companies that are now in charge of policing the conversation. And one thing that I think Russia does better than any other country is troll, disinformation, and misinformation. They are very, very good at turning online conversations on their head. And be it propaganda, be it just spinning people's point of views, there is a very big contingency, or a very big section in Russia dedicated entirely to propaganda. Like, it's a thing, and we're going to show how a lot of tech companies have already stepped up and tried to stop that. But again, the question is, do we trust Facebook, Google, YouTube, Twitter, Netflix even? Do we trust these companies to, really step back and say, they've weeded it out the best they can? I think that it becomes a little bit easier because Russia is a known bad actor when it comes to online disinformation, thanks to the whole 2016 election. They're well known for pushing. They're well known for pushing bull. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and just get started with some examples, because I found a nice variety. Again, if you're watching the video portion, you can see all the sources here. In the show notes, we'll include all the links so you can check them out yourself. Just definitely want to make sure they're sourced at least somewhat. But this one from Engadget, just to start things off: Facebook will demote Russian state media across its entire platform. And here's an example of a fairly interesting stance, because, I try to do one post per company, but there have been days where more and more has kind of developed from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. Facebook, for instance, they stopped the ability to advertise to Ukrainians. They banned RT, which is like Russia Today or whatever it is, RT from being on its platform. They took down a bunch of Russian troll accounts and profiles. I think they took down like 3,000 different pages linked to like 500 different accounts. On top of that, Facebook has really been trying its best to deal with this. And honestly, it might be the best, most proactive I've ever seen Facebook. So a little bit of kudos, not saying that they have the whole thing completely under control. I think that their platform has grown so massive and bloated, they have no way of actually policing the platform. But if their response to other things was like a 1, they're currently at a solid 1.5. So good job, Facebook, stepping it up. But still, this story, for instance, that came out today, Facebook will demote Russian state media across its entire platform. So it stopped promoting certain Russian, platforms, and now they will demote Russian state media. So they're not just trying to say completely, we are banning all of it. This one is they're actually taking their algorithm. They're saying, calling the move unprecedented. Meta's president of global affairs, Nick Clegg, said the company was making Russian state media harder to find on Facebook and Instagram. Saying, quote, we are demoting content from Facebook pages and Instagram accounts for Russian state-controlled media outlets. We have also begun to demote posts that contain links to Russian state-controlled media websites on Facebook over the last few days. So Facebook has gone from banning to outright calling out, fake accounts and things like that. Now they are actually changing the secret sauce. They are changing the algorithm to not actively promote and actually demote the conversation that is happening that Russia is trying to push, or maybe even people are trying to have about Russia. It's a very strange kind of thing, because in the past, Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg in particular have kind of said, oh, we just get information to people, we're not in charge of policing that information. And now this is hard proof that they are hard policing that information. They are making sure that the quote unquote right information kind of gets to you. Now, I'm saying this like I'm skeptical of Facebook. I think Facebook's response is warranted. Clearly there is a misinformation campaign. One side is claiming that there is full-blown war. Ukraine is having to defend its homeland against an invading force. It is war. And the other side is claiming it's a peacekeeping mission. Don't worry about it. Those are peace tanks and peace missiles. Someone is lying. That is 100% the case. So, there does need to be a reaction, and Facebook's is to change their algorithm. So that's Facebook. The next one, you have companies like Reddit, which is, I think, like in the top 10 most visited websites, one of the most active social media sites out there for conversation, and one of the favorite places of trolls to kind of hang out, exist, and push narratives. Well, there was a subreddit called r/Russia, which is obviously everything to do with Russia, and from my understanding, they actually also launched r/Russia politics because, oddly enough, a subreddit about Russia did not want to have people in its subreddit calling them all warmongers or, invaders. They pushed all that off to Russian politics and, trying to quiet down everything and push a narrative. Essentially, Reddit saw them as pushing misinformation. They were quoting too many sources from places like RT and misinformation, and Reddit quarantined them. If you don't know what quarantine is, very similar to the Donald, I think was the last one that I really knew about, where they take a subreddit, they hide it from search filters. You have to be logged into an account to see it. It's kind of flagged as mature. They say that this community is quarantined. The community contains high volume of information not supported by credible sources. And essentially, unless you are signed in and you are like triple sure that you want to go there, no one is going to accidentally see information from Russia anymore, or I should say from the subreddit Russia. So they said that while many online communities have loudly decried Russia's recent attacks on Ukraine, it's unsurprising that Russia has a significantly different perspective. A subreddit dedicated to everything related to the country Russia, their top posts over the last few days have overwhelmingly justified or defended the invasion. So, though there have certainly been elements of truth in some posts, such as disturbing reports of Ukrainian officials discriminating against non-white refugees, a larger portion of the invasion-related content posted to Our Russia has been without basis, mischaracterized, or quickly debunked. Due to these dis and misinformation issues, they've now added it to the list of quarantine communities. So, Russia subreddit on Reddit has taken to quarantining certain communities that would obviously be sympathetic to Russia. Facebook has chosen a side, and it is anti-Russian propaganda. Reddit has chosen a side. It is anti-Russian propaganda. I chose this one. I know it says Facebook on the title, but TikTok on top of that. Well, Facebook and TikTok block Russian state media in Europe. So this is in the EU as well. So a spokesperson for TikTok told NPR it was also blocking the two outlets in the EU. The move means people using the social media apps in European countries won't be able to access pages or content posted by RT and Sputnik. So there you go. They said that, and so the EU president announced a ban on the two outlets, saying that the state-owned Russia Today and Sputnik and their subsidiaries will no longer be able to spread their lies to justify Putin's war. So TikTok even TikTok has chosen a side to, kind of stop that. Now, they're businesses, they earn money, they have audiences that they need to cater to, and from a business standpoint, maybe the best decision is to just go with the EU, go with America, go with their larger paying audience. And, Russia, by and large, is not that big of an economy. They are 1/10 the size of, they are 1/10 the size of China. They are 1/15 the size of the United States. They are, once again, 1/10 the size of the EU as a whole. No country that wants to stay afloat and is a multinational corporation is going to pick Russia over everyone else. So don't get me wrong, some of this might just be a money-driven decision, but the end result is still the same. Russia and Russian news outlets are getting blocked. So we have, again, Reddit, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter is pausing ads and recommendations in Ukraine and Russia. And on top of that, they even took down more bots themselves, and they are, handling it in their own way. So they're saying that we've temporarily paused advertisements in Ukraine and Russia to ensure critical public safety information is elevated and ads don't detract from that. Which, by the way, if there's ever another issue in the future, social media sites, if you're listening, do this immediately. No one needs to pay for information to get people where they need to go. If there's important information, don't make them buy ads. Let good official news sources, either directly from the government or government spokespeople, let them control what, people need to hear, not just whoever is throwing money at the situation. Things like tsunamis and natural disasters and political conflicts, for instance. This is a good move. Good job, Twitter. Twitter didn't indicate how long these measures would be in place, but said it was part of an ongoing work to respond to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So the company added that it's directing users to moments and events curated by its editorial team, and that's actually quite interesting. They're also curating their own messages. 1 second. Okay, yeah. They're curating their own stories. They're curating their own timeline that people can go and pick from and look at. So researchers have warned that misinformation and disinformation about Ukraine will continue to flood social media platforms. Twitter says it's also working to keep high-profile accounts safe from hacking attempts as well, because you can imagine how confusing it would be, especially in these times, to kind of think about, well, what happens if Joe Biden's Twitter account was compromised and he started tweeting a bunch of gibberish that was pro-Russian? Man, that would cause a lot of confusion. So Twitter is taking down Russian sources, they're blocking Russian sources, and they are fact-checking and curating and, kind of on lockdown. That's Twitter's response. Google blocks RT, other Russian channels, from earning ad revenue, and this is more for YouTube. They're citing extraordinary circumstances. Google's YouTube unit said it was pausing a number of channels' ability to monetize on YouTube. Ad placement is largely controlled by YouTube, and in addition, the Russian media will not be able to buy ads through Google tools or place ads on Google services such as Gmail, and that's what a spokesperson said. Yeah, so there you go. It's this again has a lot to do with EU calling for a tech ban, a social media ban on RT and Sputnik. This has a lot to do with sanctions from the White House, although a lot of U.S. sanctions are aimed primarily at banking and individual, companies and individual people in Russia. Now, the U.S. also decided that Russia will have, anything being sent to Russia, you're going to need a license for. Because, either low-tech, high-tech, agriculture, aviation, microelectronics, telecommunication items, sensors, navigation equipment, marine equipment, aircraft components, all of that is going to need a big old stamp of approval from Uncle Sam before you can actually send it out to Russia. Russia is radioactive. It is a toxic country, and if you do business there, you need so many checks before you can continue to do what you were doing just 2 weeks ago, that some countries, including obviously a lot of social media companies, might just blacklist Russia and go, it's easier to just step back and away from this until this whole Russia-Ukraine conflict comes to an end. So that seems to be the way a lot of people are handling it. So there's Google and Facebook, and one of the last major tech companies out there is, of course, Microsoft. They're saying that all of us who work at Microsoft, and this is directly from Microsoft, by the way, are following closely the tragic, unlawful, and unjustified invasion of Ukraine. This has become both a kinetic and digital war with horrifying images from across Ukraine, as well as less visible cyber attacks on computer networks. And what this has to do is that Microsoft actually identified a new ransomware that had gone into Ukraine and had shut it down and warned the U.S., and actually warned the White House when it happened. So there you go. It was several hours before the launch of missiles or movement of tanks on February 24th. Microsoft's Threat Intelligence Center detected a new round of offensive and destructive cyber attacks directed against Ukraine's digital infrastructure. So there you go. And it goes into some detail about what it was, what they were targeting, all that kind of thing. But these recent and ongoing cyber attacks have been precisely targeted, and we have not seen the use of the indiscriminate malware technology that spread across Ukraine's economy and beyond its borders in the 2017 NotPetya attack. There you go. So Microsoft is shutting them down. They're, not doing any more business with Russia. And obviously they are responding strongly to what Russia is putting out on the internet. So there you go. And also Microsoft said that, quote, "We are moving swiftly to take new steps to reduce the exposure of Russian state propaganda, as well as ensure our own platforms do not inadvertently fund these operations." The EU's recent decision, Microsoft Start platform, will not display state-sponsored RT and Sputnik content. Essentially, if you're a tech company, do not have anything to do with RT and Sputnik. That seems to be really the end of it. Now, that's a lot of the big tech companies, but even smaller ones are having to kind of deal with the fallout of this as well. You have Uber looking to sell its Russian ride-hailing app, Yandex. Uber owns a 29% stake in the service, and yeah, they're saying that, and I'm sure this has nothing to do with the fact that the Russian economy is about to be in shambles, and it's currently in free fall. But last year, Uber announced it would sell its stake of the Yandex autonomous vehicle and food delivery division back to the Russian internet company for a total of $1 billion. In the wake of Monday's decision, 3 Uber executives resigned from the board of the Yandex.taxi. So essentially, Uber is cutting ties with Russia. A 29% stake, $1 billion and probably a little bit more is not chump change. That's a big split-second decision. And while they were already going to do it a year ago, they are fast looking to speed this whole process up. So they mentioned in light of recent events, which is a nice way of saying, hey, in light of recent events means, that in war, it can be really, really bad. We are actively looking for opportunities to accelerate the sale of our remaining holdings, and in the meantime, we'll remove our executives from the board of the joint venture. So there you go. The decision aligns with similar moves by U.S. private companies like Google, Apple, Meta, Netflix, and others to cut ties with Russia in light of its invasion of Ukraine. And actually, funny enough, what has... I don't know what Apple did. Let's see. Apple, Russia. Well, let's see what they did. Real quick. Computer World. Will Apple sanction Russia? So there you go. So they're saying that Apple's Russia business has grown significantly in the last few years, blah, 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 blah. I think that Apple is going to leave Russia. Oh, actually, I do have one story pertaining to that, and that would actually be... Not that one. It was this one. Customers of banks targeted by Russia sanctions are unable to use Apple Pay or Google Pay. And it kind of makes sense. Again, you don't want to leave the US and the EU just to chase down an economy that is 1/10 the size, or 1/20th the size of what you're leaving. So Apple, Google, the financial sectors, they're all leaving Russia to blow in the breeze. Cards issued by several Russian banks have been hit by sanctions, are unable to use Apple Pay and Google Pay services. That's what they said on Friday. Those banks' customers wouldn't be able to use their cards abroad or to make online payments to companies registered in countries that have issued sanctions, which makes sense. It's just kind of interesting that tech companies, specifically Apple and Google, are the ones to pull the plug on financial-related sanctions and not, the banks themselves. Very, very curious. So there you go. There's Apple. Let's throw them into the mix. Uber's looking to completely cut off from its business ties in Russia. Netflix declines to carry Russian propaganda channels. And again, this has everything to do with sanctions, but essentially the channels include Channel 1, NTV, and SPA, a channel operated by the Russian Orthodox Church. Channel 1 is understood to be aligned with the Kremlin and likely to broadcast Putin propaganda. Given the current situation, we have no plans to add these channels to our service. That's what Netflix told Variety. The law is not yet fully implemented, despite speculation that it would be enforced on March 1st. Essentially, people are and by people, I mean companies are very aggressively making sure that they cut as many business ties with Russia as they possibly can, because in just a couple of days, maybe even sooner, you are not going to be able to do business with Russia. Any assets that you have there, any money that you have left in their economy is just going to be locked up there for a good long while. So there you go. So Netflix declines to carry Russian Russian news stations. Let's see. Just have a couple more of these, but all of these are again to kind of give you an understanding that tech companies are picking a side, and then we're going to have a conversation real quick in just a minute about is that good or is that bad, and how far can it possibly go? Now, actually, let's do this one real quick. Jala, which you may not have heard of, they're actually a Finnish open source operating system company. Russia owns 45% of the company, and they're actually going to completely cut ties with that funding. Like, imagine walking away from literally half of the valuation, half of the resources that your company has in access to, and just cutting it off. They're saying that they added that Jala has been actively driving down its Russian business through 2021. And at this point, it does not make any money from the nation. But until it can find a way of buying Rostelecom out or somehow otherwise arranging a separation, the thorny issue remains. So there you go. It's not clear, and we have, they obviously have emailed Jala for further comment. But yeah. Companies are looking to, at all cost, distance themselves from Russia, except Binance. And this might have more to do with the this might have more to do with the the philosophy around cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is supposed to be decentralized. No one is supposed to control it. No one is supposed to control the flow of it. Currency is currency. It's global. It's quick. It's easy. It's effortless. And it is a tool that does not care about your politics. Cryptocurrency is, freedom from any kind of control. Well, Binance, which is actually an American, it's actually a company that is traded on the American Stock Exchange. So I'm curious how they're actually going to do this. But Binance said Monday it will block the accounts of Russian individuals who have been sanctioned, but will not unilaterally freeze the accounts of all Russian users. The comments come after Ukraine's vice president called on major cryptocurrencies to block all Russian user accounts, and that, quote, "We are not going to unilaterally freeze millions of innocent users' accounts." That's what they're saying. Crypto is meant to provide greater financial freedom for people across the globe. To unilaterally decide to ban people's access to their crypto would fly in the face of the reason why crypto exists. And yes, but I think the moment that they became a publicly traded company and they're on the stock exchange and they have shareholders and they have to answer to the American government, they're going to have a really good reason other than I believe, because guess what? The government really doesn't care about your beliefs. If they have a sanction against Russia, you better obey it or else you get jail time. So with that being said, the U.S. and European Union have responded with sanctions targeting Russian banks, sovereign debt, the president, Vladimir Putin. So Binance said it is taking the steps necessary to ensure we take action against those who have had sanctions levied against them, while minimizing the impact on innocent users. Like, I kind of get it, but yeah, they have kind of picked a side, and they're going right down the middle of the road. So there's a lot of information. A lot of tech companies are having to deal with this in real time. No one's going to have a perfect response. We all have to operate, by and large, on the same information. And for you and your household, this probably doesn't really affect your job in your day and day. But for a multi-billion or multi-trillion-dollar company, it gets a little bit more tricky. So the reason I brought all this up was because, again, it's kind of flooding my newsfeed, and I needed to talk about this at some point. These are all current events that happened within the past 2 or 3 days. And the role of tech companies, should they be doing all of this? Now, clearly, I don't want to say, that they shouldn't be doing this, because they have to abide by the sanctions. In the European Union, in the US, they have to abide by the sanctions. Purely financial decision, they're going to make the same decision that they've been making. But I think enough of them have also combined it with the words of, we don't support Russia in its illegal or its invasion of Ukraine. Enough companies have said that Russia is bad, Ukraine is innocent. Or not innocent, but anyways, Russia is bad and Ukraine is being attacked. Enough have said that I'm comfortable in saying tech companies have chosen a side. That seems absolutely fair to say. Now, when you do that, you now have Facebook and Twitter and Reddit and all these other social media companies that are now controlling the flow of information. They're controlling which videos stay up. If it's pro-Russian video, does it get taken down? If it's pro-Ukrainian video, does it get to stay up? Does it get promoted? Does it not get promoted? This war of information is in a very strange spot, because Russia's very good, again, at controlling the flow of information. Now it's almost like Russia against everyone else. And that seems like a very fair fight, if I'm being honest. Like it is a fair fight, by and large. So yeah, it's I want to applaud the companies that have, obviously kind of obeyed the sanctions, but have taken time to cut ties with Russia. It's going to take a long time for these businesses to go back to Russia, even after this conflict has ended and everything, the dust has settled. Russia has done quite a bit of damage to international relations, and unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to feel about it, our economy is closely tied. And normally that's a good thing. You don't want to bomb the supplier of your goods. You don't want to bomb the consumer of your goods that you manufacture. A more integrated economy between countries is supposed to stop conflict and promote peace. This is a very good example of what is going to happen when you throw that up in the air, when you throw the cards all over the place and go, well, let's see what happens. We need to reform the USSR. Now, it could go even further, and that's another little area that we could discuss, because Ukraine just today has pushed for this one, and it really makes you wonder: one, is it possible? Two, what would even be the consequences of it? Ukraine pushes to unplug Russia from the internet. In today's day and age, that would almost be like, I don't know, would would you disconnect someone from, I don't know, the highway, plane system or plane routes, which I guess I kind of have already. I don't know. It seems so fundamental. I don't know if they can even do it. So Ukrainian officials are asking a key organization to disconnect Russia from all sites around the globe from global computer networks. They're saying that it's the latest attempt to turn Russia into a pariah state in retaliation for the Kremlin's invasion of Ukraine. Experts call it a massive and ill-advised step. According to an email, Ukraine's request to the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, seeks to revoke domains issued in Russia and shut down primary domain name system servers in the country, a move that would effectively bar access to Russian internet sites with the potential of knocking the entire country offline, which it would, If so many tech companies, so many social media companies have picked a side and are taking action against Russia, what about a nonprofit? What about ICANN, which is responsible for domain names? The series of numbers that hosts all the web pages on the internet that is supposed to be completely unbiased. Do they have a responsibility to step in and potentially knock every Russian website off the internet? Can they block all traffic that comes in or out of Russia? Who knows? Saying that no one anywhere in the world would be able to reach any Russian website. People inside Russia, unless they had good connectivity to the rest of the world, would be unable to reach any other part of the internet, just Russian parts. So there you go. So the email, which is from a gentleman in Ukraine, states that they are impeding Ukrainian citizens and government's ability to communicate, will help users seek reliable information in alternative domain zones, preventing propaganda and disinformation. Essentially what they're saying is if you take down Russia and Russian sites, they would have to go elsewhere in the world, like an American or a Chinese or an Australian publication to find out what's happening in Russia. And that might stop Russian misinformation. So they say that this is a huge request from Ukraine. It's very likely ICANN will just say no. The Kremlin is spreading tons of propaganda and disinformation about Ukraine, but this is not the way to go about addressing it. Which, I kind of got to agree with ICANN. It would be such a massive step, and it would set such a precedent that whenever a country got too uppity, and right now it's not even a possibility. Obviously, full-blown war may be a possibility. Maybe a little bit of a political uprising, another possibility. Anytime, let's say, whoever can apply enough pressure to ICANN, the United States, European Union, whichever organization, whoever can apply just enough pressure can get ICANN to turn off their entire infrastructure of internet. That's a very bad decision. So they mentioned that knocking Russia offline would be a major hit to the country. They said that which has included blah, blah, blah. The email also makes reference to revoking digital signatures that authenticate domain names, a move that they said could leave Russia vulnerable to many kinds of abusive practices, including attacks on personal banking. And they think that fundamentally this is a bad idea. If there was ever a red button, and I know nukes have already been brought up in this whole conversation about war with Russia, but this is the nuclear option as far as the internet is concerned. This one is big time, maybe a step too far, but hey, it's a possibility. It's something that people do want to consider. So there you go. Let's see, we don't need that one. So we're going to go ahead and leave that there. Tech companies are reacting, And obviously there's economic incentive to do so. There are sanctions that they have to abide by, but by and large, they're also mixing it with language that says, hey, we're against Russia. We are for the people of Ukraine. And I wanted to end this special segment with, some of the feel-good stories. And these are just the ones that kind of came across my desk. I'm sure that there are a lot more companies and a lot more organizations that are looking to help the people of Ukraine. These are just tech companies that, that's mainly what we're focusing on, that have offered to help the people of Ukraine more so than cut ties with Russia. So the first one is the one, the only, the man, Elon Musk. Yeah, wait, actually, I didn't say that right. Everyone, Elon Musk. My software froze. There we go. Elon Musk. Yeah. He pledges to send Starlink terminals to Ukraine, and actually those already arrived. There you go. They said that per tweet from Ukraine's gentleman there, the Starlink terminal Musk promised over the weekend have arrived in the country. So surprisingly, over the course of like 3 days, Musk was able to send a carload of Starlink satellites. Or I should say terminals to connect to Starlink satellites, so they can continue to have internet even when constant destruction of the Ukrainian infrastructure is going on. They said that following 4 days of intense fighting, internet connectivity in Ukraine has been spotty at times, particularly in parts of the country that have seen the most combat. It's while Ukraine hasn't suffered a nationwide blackout yet, there's worry the situation could change at any moment. So thanks to this, at least some officials of Ukraine should continue to have internet access at all times. So there you go. Elon Musk promoting internet connectivity among people who have to deal with this. So that kind of sucks. So good job, Elon. Don't say that often. Next one, Facebook also gave the ability for people to turn on lock profile. And for those who don't know, lock profile shuts it down. You can't find it on search. You can't download the picture. You can't do anything. Russia's very good at scouring Facebook profiles and finding people of interest, getting their picture from social media, and then finding them in real life, either through, other little bits of identifiable information or more. Facebook turned on Lock Profile, which is a one-click solution to complete and utter privacy and security for people who may be traveling on the run, who have posted things in their past. You cannot see you cannot see any information on a locked profile. So Facebook was very quick to turn this on, and it's very, very good to see that they obviously Facebook thought through for the people who are, trying to flee with their lives out of Ukraine. On top of that, Airbnb. Again, for the feel-good story, Airbnb offers free housing for up to 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. So clearly, Airbnb operates within Poland, Germany, Hungary, Romania, many of the European nations. And they're saying that they're offering support. More than 300,000 people have left Ukraine since the invasion commenced on Thursday. And Airbnb.org nonprofit will work with government and local organizations to support the needs of refugees in those areas, because clearly people have places that they're looking to rent out, and they're looking to home people, at least temporarily, and that's a good step in the right direction. Google, you know them. They've disabled Maps live traffic in Ukraine following the Russian invasion. It really goes to show just how much insight tech companies kind of have over our everyday lives. And it's kind of nice to see that they recognize that. They recognize that your traffic data could be utilized by Russian forces to see the emigration of people out of the country and maybe potentially target those highways and road systems. Not saying that it's, boom, Russia had, or, boom, Google has solved the entire invasion. But yeah, it's a step in the right direction that Google is being very cautious and worrying about, people who are trying to flee the country. So there's that one. And I think the last one is that I know I bashed on cryptocurrency a little bit, saying that they aren't picking a side. They're trying to remain neutral while still obeying sanctions. But the free-flowing cash that is cryptocurrency actually has a benefit as well. While Russia has forbidden, and that's becoming less and less of an issue, Russia has forbidden any kind of, countries from supplying aid and military aid and stuff like that. Ukraine has been asking for donations in the form of cryptocurrency, and they have gotten over $13 million from everyday people in the form of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies from over 18,000 contributors after a crowdfund. And let's see. I would love to see, live updates. Is this right here? 42% Bitcoin, 38% Ether, 16.9% stable coins, and 2.5% other. As of this writing, 300,000, let's see. Trying to see how much money they have actively raised, because they were up to 13 million. I think that number has gone up. Okay. I think about 24 million as of the time of us doing this story. So about $24 million in cryptocurrency have gone to support the Ukrainian government in this time. Technology is playing a huge role in this, either through what we here in the United States or around the world are seeing, what the Ukrainian people are having to react to in real time, to just the movements of Russian troops and how Russia is having to maneuver, not just in cyberspace, but in real time. Technology is playing such a huge role, and I don't see that ever going back the other way. Tech companies, social media companies, you, me, everyone is going to have a role to play in every large-scale conflict. I mean, just goes to show. The entire country has been wrapped up in Russia and Ukraine. I'm sure before this, people didn't even really give two craps about Russia and Ukraine. Now everyone does, and everyone has a role to play. Everyone, we're going to go ahead and end that there. Again, let us know on social media. Let us know in the comments if you what your opinion on this is. But I know this is a tricky one. I tried to do it the best I could. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.